Hey guys, I wanted to tell you about some predictive coding that I noticed with myself as a little example. This is from my yoga class. So I have a little history that I'll tell you about with my left hamstring. And it starts back 20 years ago when I was training for a marathon and had what I thought was pulled a muscle. I don't even know at this point, but basically a lot of neural pathways that I've had some damage to that area. And it's been, when I started yoga a few years ago, I always noticed that side felt a little different when I stretched it. And I, at one point, started to wonder if it would ever go away. And then actually about a year after doing yoga, I did notice it felt pretty good most of the time. I didn't notice it most of the time. And then I started getting with this certain move where you would imagine like a pigeon position, if this makes sense to you. If not, don't worry about it. But basically, you're bringing your leg back behind you, bending your knee, and bringing your ankle towards your bum. So you're flexing those hamstrings, you're bringing your knee in, and that position started cramping just on my left side. And then it started cramping when I would do it on my left and on my right. About the time that was happening, I was actually coaching someone, an older woman who was starting to get some muscle cramps and was asking about muscle cramps. So it was really interesting that I started associating that movement of drawing my leg back towards my glute now on both sides with this cramping. But I also was very curious about the cramping. I just let it happen. I was actually very curious. Instead of, stopping and immediately panicking, I was able to breathe through it. It was able to relax. So although it was quite common that I would have a cramping sensation, and sometimes it would even feel a little tender the rest of that day or the next day on both legs, like a Charlie horse, I just didn't pay a lot of attention to it and didn't even really tie it to the hamstring injury or anything. But what really happened this last week that was so interesting and got me thinking about all of this again was I was in a yoga class and just watched the teacher do that position, and my hamstring started cramping just watching her do it. So anticipating that I was going to be doing it, my leg already started to tighten and I felt that familiar cramping sensation. Totally predictive coding. Since I noticed that, it was really kind of fun and interesting. And so I was kind of laughing to myself. I hadn't even done the movement yet, but I was like, how interesting, I'm already feeling it. So I just thought, okay, this is totally predictive coding. I did the move slowly. I brought my leg back. Guess what? No cramping. On either side, I did it on both sides and it didn't cramp that time. So just because I had kind of been noticing that playfully and in a fun way, oh, this is totally predictive coding, I get it now, then I didn't have that expected effect. That it didn't really bother me that it was happening, but it was also really nice to know that it didn't have to happen. So that's my story of my most recent experience with predictive coding that I noticed. But, the brain is always trying to take these shortcuts and associate foods or movements or activities or lack of activities or seats or shoes or things like that with pain. And, the more you can just see that this predictive coding is happening and you don't have to feel the pain, then sometimes it's just really not even necessary and it just goes away.